Thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation, and I want also to say that I'm very pleased to be here with Minister Altmaier and the Minister of Interior to talk about what I think is a fantastic title, Europe in Times of Unrest, how we can bring European unity and European solidarity to the next level. What will be exactly the challenge for the years to come. And I want also to use this tribune to repeat what you have said, Mr. Ross, to pay tribute to the passing of the Queen. If you look to the 70 years of her reign, then you can say that she covered two world orders. There are not so many people who can say that they have covered two world orders. The world order between 45 and 89, the Cold War, and then the second world order we have seen since 1989 until recently, the world order described by Fukuyama in his book, The End of History. Liberal democracy has won, market economy is the rule, and the whole world will be transformed in liberal democracies and market economies. And let's be honest, what we are seeing today is an enormous other world order than the world order we thought. It's not longer the Cold War. It's certainly not the triumph of liberal democracy, on the contrary, because it are autocratic regimes. And I call this new world order, already in a little book that I published 10 years ago, a new age of empires. Empires for the good and empires for the bad. Because if you look to the world order is not longer, ladies and gentlemen, 100, I should say, 99 individual nation states sitting together in the General Assembly of the UN. That's not the world order. The world order is a world order of empires. China, what is not a nation, what is in fact a civilization, Han civilization, covering so many ethnies and nations inside, is a world of empires like India. India, there's 2,000 nations, 2,000 of them, 20 different languages, and then at the same time 4 big religions inside their borders, and at the same time the biggest democracy worldwide. So that is, that's not a nation, that's an empire in the future. The same for the US, I would say, the United States of America. And then those who want to become an empire or were an empire in the past, like Russia, and from that, the whole brutal aggression that we see today. And I think the lesson to take with the Ukrainian war towards this new world order is, as an individual country, you have no security outside a bloc, outside an international organization of a certain magnitude. It can be NATO, it can be the European Union, it can be both. Seems to me even the best way forward. But individual nation states, that is the lesson from Ukraine, needs to be part of a bigger entity, of a continental organization to defend their interest, to defend not only interest military or politically, but also technologically or in standards, economically. So the competition in this new world order will not only be a world order of military forces one against each other, or political and diplomatic fights, but also on the technological field, on the economic field. And I think that Peter Altmaier is a better advocate to illustrate that. And the fact that we have seen these decisions of Sweden and Finland to enter in the NATO is a good example of that. I remember, Mr. Altmaier certainly also, and the Minister of Interior certainly also, if you have said here 5 years ago that Finland and Sweden would enter NATO, you would just say, oh, you had a lot of drinks yesterday evening or something like that, because that was impossible to think about. that Sweden neutral forever, and Finland still waiting for their help in their fight against the Russians in the 30s. That never came. So they were very reluctant to do that. And the fact that they do that is proof of this new world order. And the question that I want to raise with you today in this audience, in this first session, is, are we, Europeans, ready for that new world order? Are we ready to take our place? Because if you have China and India and then Russia and the US, yeah, we are there in the middle, and we can actually say, yeah, look, for us, we don't need to be an empire again. We got our empires in the past. It was not a big success. It's not necessary to make from the European Union a big, strong organization, because we are under the umbrella of the US, of the United States. But what will happen with the US? It could be that in a few years we see, I don't hope, the return of a Twitterant phenomena, Mr. Trump. And then what is our security? What is the guarantee that we have? So we need to get our act together ourselves to be ready for the new world order as Europeans, as a European Union, and not to think, okay, yeah, we are in NATO, the Americans will continue to spend their money for NATO, and we are covered. And so my answer today on the question, are we ready for the new world order, is no. We are not ready for the new world order. We need to do a number of big changes, reforms, inside Europe, inside the European Union, and we need to do them the fastest as possible. And the most obvious one, on which I want to talk about, is not about the economy, because that's for Mr. Altmaier, I think, but about defense. I think defense is certainly today an issue where we have to say that we are not ready. And I have a number of slides with me. I want to show you one that is about technology. Maybe I come back to this if I have a little bit of time during the debate. Is this one. This one are the expenditures, military expenditures worldwide today. And what you see is naturally, yeah, that the US is the champion of military expenditures, nearly $800 billion. But then you see that there are two main big spenders. There's China, who is now $240, $250 billion every year in spending, and Europe, 233, so nearly the same amount as China, and this is without the UK, so it's already after after Brexit, because with Brexit it would have been, and what you see is also that we are spending 4 times more than Russia on military. You should not say that. If you look to the situation on the ground in Ukraine and the balance of power, that's not what you think about. So we are spending, in fact, the same as China, 4 times more than Russia. We are spending more or less 35% of America on spending on military, and we can do 10% of the operations of the American army. 10% of the operations of the American army. So I'm a lawyer, so I'm not a mathematician, but even I, as a lawyer, know that there is a problem. Nevertheless, I was Minister of Budget at a certain time, I'm always saying, but to be Minister of Budget, it's not necessary to know anything about mathematics, I have to tell you. The only thing what you need to know as Minister of Budget is the word no. And then you are a good Minister of Budget. But even I, as a lawyer, know that when you spend 35% or 40% of the Americans, you can only do 10%, that you are 3 to 4 times less effective. Why? Because of duplication. Because of the fact that we have 130 weapon systems in Europe, while the Americans have between 25 and 30. The same for the Chinese, the same for the Russians. So I agree with increasing the spending, and I find it fantastic what will happen in Germany, but I will tell you one thing, it will solve nothing at all. Nothing at all if we don't end the duplication and if we don't start to create a European defense community in Europe, not against NATO, but as the European pillar of NATO. what was already the case in 1952 when Adenauer and Schuman signed the Treaty on the European Defense Community. At that time, the European Defense Community was also under the command of the NATO Secretary General. It was foreseen in the treaty. And the fact that, it didn't happen, that the French National Assembly voted against the European Defense Community has a lot of reasons. The death of Stalin, the nuclear bomb in the possession of the French, but Stalin is back. That's the reality. He has another name. His name is Putin today. So we need the fastest as possible to do our homework, to do not necessarily, we go to 2% or 3% or 4% of the GDP on military expenditures. No, to create a real defense community on the European level, because you never know what happens in the world. You never know if at a certain moment we will not stand alone to defend our interests and our own territory. So I have another slide. The number of soldiers in the world, don't look to it because we are the world champions in soldiers. That's the more even than the Chinese. But this is showing you one of the big reforms that are absolutely. The second one is one on technology and energy. We need to become economically sovereign and to have our own standards. If you look to the place of Europe in the world, the technological world of tomorrow, it's a little tragedy. So I have one slide for you on that. That is this slide. I hope that you have your glasses, otherwise you don't find Europe. So look well, that is the stock market value of the internet platforms worldwide today, where you see the red that are the American firms, you know, the Amazon, Alphabet, Apple, Microsoft, and so on and so on. We know the Asian ones, Alibaba, and then you see Europe. I hope that you see Europe, because it's a very small thing. With the biggest company there is SAP. Mr. Altmaier knows them very well. It's a German company that is mainly also selling accountancy programs and so on and so on. But besides that, and then a little bit of Spotify. Spotify is a European firm. Many people think that's an American firm. But and Spotify is a good example. What is the problem? Spotify is a Swedish firm who went first to America to be successful and then came back to Europe. The streamer of music on our mobile devices. And why they had to do it? Because it was impossible to roll out their model in Europe. They needed 27 authorizations from 27 national authorities. While in America, they go to FCC, Federal Communication Commission, up one authorization, and they roll out the model. And they make a deal with 3 mobile operators in America, and they roll out the model. In Europe, you need to make a deal with more than 100 mobile operators that we still have in the European Union, because that's still a national issue. So on the technological field, and the same is in fact happening for energy. I was Prime Minister. The last summit of Tony Blair was in Hampton Court in Britain, and there what we created was the energy union. But in fact, we don't have an energy union today. If you don't have common grids, common purchase of energy, common decisions on the energy mix, you don't have an energy union. And then last, and then I'm concluding, we need, thirdly, and I have no slide for that, an institutional reform, and also on budget. If we continue in the world of tomorrow to take our decisions with unanimity, when 27 countries need to say yes, it will not happen. Look to what happened to the sanctions on oil towards Russia. The Americans, 2 weeks after the start of the war, were capable on the 8th of May with an executive order of President Biden to decide tough embargo on oil. And we decided and discussed 2 months, and after 2 months, we got more or less an agreement to start with an embargo by the end of the year, with an exception for a country, Hungary, and so on and so on. I can tell you, such a European Union will not survive the new age of empires. and there will be other dramas and tragedies, as we got already with Brexit, even when I think maybe Brexit, you never know that they're going to reverse it. There is tomorrow a big, Mr. Ross, I think, a big manifestation.
It's been postponed, but
they have postponed it
because I'm here.
Yeah, that's the reason to rejoin the European Union. And if you look to the figures today, I think that 60 or even 62 or 63% of the Brits want to return to the European Union. Okay, well, my message to them is, let's first of all start to reform the European Union so that it is capable to act, and therefore end of unanimity is certainly, in my opinion, one of the key reforms to make it happen. Thank you very much.